A few months ago, I did a bunch of lab tests for over 100 different biomarkers.
Is this how many vials are being
I know.
And this was my first time doing something like this, so honestly, I was a little scared to see the results. And once the results came back, there were quite a few that I was really excited for, but then there were also that had me like scratching my head and kind of confused and a little scared. So today I'm sharing my results, what they mean, and what I'm doing to address some of those slightly more concerning numbers. Let's dive into it. My name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's in nutrition human performance. On my channel, I share the science-backed and delicious information to help you achieve your weight loss and wellness dreams without counting calories. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Today's video is also sponsored by Gem, but more on them in a bit. Okay, so first of all, the technician had to take like 10 vials of blood, and I am somebody who absolutely hates needles. Like, it is my top to fear, hence why I had to wear headphones while I was getting my blood drawn to distract myself.
to be distracted?
But if you want, I can make you dose. You feel much better than
Can you
sitting
just
up.
grab your headphones and I'll listen
yeah.
to something?
But honestly, the technician was like such a pro. She's so fast. Shout out to her. Okay, so a little bit about the tests that I did. I wanted to get like a whole comprehensive overview of where my health is at right now. I'm currently 33, so I wanted to just get a baseline of where I'm at, areas that I might need to adjust, and just other areas that I want to maintain. So I took the metabolic panel through Levels, which I'll have that link down in the description below if you want to check that out. And I was able to get those tests done just at like my local Quest. So it was really simple and easy. So when the results came in, the Levels app broke it up into different categories like metabolic health, kidney health, stress health, aging, all of that, which made it really easy to get a better idea of what these numbers really mean. It even showed my biological age, which was 25. So even though that doesn't mean a ton, pleasantly surprised by that too. Okay, but first let's start with the metabolic, because this is a nutrition channel. So these are the numbers that especially food is going to most greatly impact, because metabolic is our body's way of processing energy. It's theorized that pretty much all chronic disease is going to be coming from issues with our metabolism. So this is a very important category. So these numbers are really great for helping to assess my risk for type 2 diabetes or even heart disease risk. And I was very excited to see that all are in fantastic range. You can see that my A1C is 4.8. And A1C is a measurement of your average fasting blood sugar over the last 3 months or so. That shows my fasting blood sugar is very stable, very good. Same thing with my fasting glucose in general was also very good. But the thing I was most excited about was my fasting insulin at only 3. Like, that is very, very good. I've never actually done a fasting insulin test. It's something I've been wanting to do. It's something I recommend to all my clients to help get a better idea of type 2 diabetes risk. And having such a low fasting insulin means that my risk of type 2 diabetes is very, very low. And it shows that my body is able to shift back and forth from fat burning to carb burning pretty easily. And then other areas that showed really great results were my thyroid, my pancreas, my liver, my blood. All of those showed that things were either in normal or just really good quality health. And then also my inflammatory levels were very low. So all of that was showing really good positive signs. Then I scroll into the cardiovascular section, and this is where things got a little interesting. But before we dive into that, I want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Gem. Gem is a really amazing whole food supplement, and in the past, I've used their multivitamin supplement, but lately I've been adding in their stress supplement. It's called the Chill Out Magnesium Bite, and it has 3 different forms of magnesium to help support muscle recovery, sleep, and mood. It also has lemon balm, which is an herb known for reducing stress and anxiety. And if you guys have been following me recently, you know that I have a now 5-month-old son. He is my second baby. My first baby had excellent sleep. My second baby, not so much. And magnesium is very important for improving sleep quality. So even though I'm waking up multiple times throughout the night, I am still able to at least get really deep, high quality sleep, in part thanks to the fact that I'm getting enough magnesium. Like, just look at this sleep score. Even though I woke up like 3 different times last night, that's pretty good. I like to take my Chill Out Magnesium Bite in the afternoon to help support that sleep and winding down. And the thing that I really love about Gem is that it is made from whole foods. So I don't have to choke down a capsule, because I really, really hate taking capsules. I literally am always scared that I will choke on them. Instead, I get to eat a really tasty bite that I legitimately look forward to taking that gives me amazing benefits and nutrients. The Chill Out Magnesium Bite is made with cacao, banana, and cinnamon. So it's warm, it's slightly nutty, it has this sweet taste. It's so delicious. It honestly just tastes like a treat. And you can get 20% off your first month of Gem with code AutumnBates at checkout. So make sure to head over to dailygem.com/AutumnBates. I'll also have it linked down description below. Okay, so let's dive into the cardiovascular section. Now, before I really get into the numbers, I want to point out there is a lot of nuance when it comes to these labs. As you'll soon see, we can't just take one lab result and take it out of context. Otherwise, it really doesn't give us an idea of what the body is actually trying to tell us. So this cardiovascular section is there to help assess my heart health. First of all, we see there's HDL. HDL is known as our protective cholesterol. You actually want higher levels of HDL. Mine was pretty high. Women usually ideally want at least 50 milligrams per deciliter. Men is, I believe it's at least 40. Mine was 74. Fantastic. That is very heart health protective. And then there's triglycerides, which triglycerides is one that I feel like is often overlooked, but so many experts are now saying that this is probably one of the biggest indicators of heart health risk, at least from like a standard panel. High levels of triglycerides could be a not so great sign, especially from a heart health perspective. Now, mine was 68, and the reference range shows that you want less than 150, although the various experts that I talked to say that ideally you actually want less than 100. So even with that more strict standard, mine was still fantastic. Next up is CRP, which is a measurement of inflammation. High levels of this is a huge risk factor for heart disease. If this is raised at all, then that is not a good thing. But again, mine was low. Now I'm starting off with all of these really good numbers because it's going to put this last number really into perspective. Because then we get into the cholesterol section, highly debated, highly contested category. Now, as you can see, my total cholesterol is pretty high. I'm at 294 when the reference range is 200 or lower. So if you're to just look at that number, that would be like a huge red flag, be so scary, like, oh my gosh, like you are going to have heart disease. And although it can be scary to initially see a number like this, like I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw this come up as red, it does give you that initial shock of like, oh no, is something bad happening? But again, context is really, really key. Here's why. A high total cholesterol isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it doesn't always predict heart disease in all cases. Instead, it really comes down to the quality of that cholesterol, because some studies are actually even showing that depending on the quality of that cholesterol, high levels could actually be protective against certain diseases and promote longevity. There's actually one super recent study done in 2025 in one of the famous blue zones of Sardinia. This is one of the places that is most well known for having long-lived individuals, those who live to 100 or older. And it found that in older adults, those who had the higher levels of LDL cholesterol lived longer than those with the normal or optimal levels of cholesterol. Another study in the British Medical Journal found that in those who were over the age of 60, there's actually an inverse association between LDL cholesterol and mortality. This means that those who were over 60 and had higher LDL levels actually lived longer than their counterparts who had lower LDL levels. Yet another study looked at those who were metabolically healthy, specifically those who were following a low carb or a keto diet, and it found that even though they had really high cholesterol levels, they didn't have a lot of plaque buildup, which plaque buildup is one of the best ways of determining heart health risk. That being said, context does matter because there are cases where you can have high cholesterol and be at high risk of heart disease, but there's also cases when you could have low cholesterol and still be at risk of heart disease. Taking a look at all of these different labs will give you a much better, well-rounded picture of your heart disease risk. So I interviewed Dr. Lustig, author of the book Metabolical, and here's exactly what he had to say about that. If someone were to just see high LDL-C, I know that oftentimes their doctor's just going to say, oh, we need to put you on a statin. Is there nuance to that? Or is it like, if you have high LDL-C, that's an issue?
There's not one lab test that tells you whether or not you've got a problem or not. It is true that LDL correlates with heart disease in large populations, but for any individual patient, it means absolutely nothing. You could be somebody who has oxidized LDL, or you could be somebody who has non-oxidized LDL. You could be somebody who has big LDL. You could be somebody who has small LDL. You can be somebody who has LDL and triglycerides. You can be somebody who has LDL and low triglycerides. So you could actually have a low LDL, but a high P(a), in which case you're actually in much more danger of having a heart attack than if you had a high LDL and a low Lp(a). And that's not determined in the LDL test. In order to be able to understand it, you have to understand what LDL is. You have to understand what triglycerides are. You have to understand what HDL is. You have to understand how the patterns go together. So you never just look at an LDL level. Unfortunately, that's what the American Heart Association taught doctors to do for 4 decades because they didn't understand all of this themselves. What you need to do is look at the pattern. Now, if your LDL is high, but your triglycerides are low, what that's saying, you've got dietary fat raising your LDL, but that those LDL particles are not oxidized. The thing that oxidizes them is insulin resistance. And if you had insulin resistance, you would have high triglycerides. Mm-hmm. So if your LDL is high and your triglycerides are low, chances are you have high LDL, but they're not oxidized. And if they're not oxidized, those LDL are not contributing to cardiovascular risk. Conversely, if your LDL is high and your triglycerides are high, then there's a very good chance that those are oxidized LDLs
Mhm.
and that you do have insulin resistance, and you probably need a fasting insulin level to go with it. Just looking at a number and, determining whether it's above a, arbitrary threshold, is, I think, causing more harm than good.
So we need to do three things as individuals when we're looking at labs. First is to look at patterns. If there's high inflammation, high triglycerides, high fasting insulin, high lipoprotein A, and low HDL, then that could be a sign that there is some issues with heart disease risk. The second is to get a great doctor, somebody who can actually look at all of these labs and assess them for you in a way that's comprehensive and not just looking at one number. You can also check out that Levels full lab panel. I'll have it linked down in the description below. That's the one that I did. The third thing to remember is that no one single test will indicate whether or not you're at risk of heart disease. It needs to be taken into context of all of these other labs as well. So what do my high cholesterol levels mean in this situation? Well, given that I had really great HDL, really great triglycerides, low inflammation, low lipoprotein A, it probably means I have big, fluffy, and harmless cholesterol. That is a lot different from the inflamed and oxidized cholesterol. That being said, I'm still gonna get the test done probably every year, so just to keep an eye on it, see how things change. But ironically, there was one huge takeaway that I got from this whole lab panel, something that I started to implement because of this test, and it was my results on my omega-3s. Now, even though my omega-3 specifically came back as in good range, there were other omega-3 tests that were slightly low, specifically the DPA test. So for that reason, I started taking a fish oil supplement again. Not a crazy exciting update, but something that is good to know so that I can just further optimize my health for the future too. Now, if you want to see what I eat in a week to support my body, my health, and my goals, you can check out this video next. Also, a huge thank you to Dr. Lustig for giving his expertise on this. If you want to check out his book, Metabolical, I'll have it linked down in the description below as well. Otherwise, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-packed and delicious information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.